I want to talk to you about something that Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, the most valuable chip company in the world, said something recently that I haven't been able to stop thinking about. He said, if you pay your software engineers $500,000 a year, and at the end of that year, they haven't spent at least another $250,000 running AI, he would be deeply alarmed. Think about it, what that actually means. The AI running on top of a $500,000 employee now costs almost as much as the employee themselves. And the companies building this AI, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Meta, they are committing over $660 billion this year alone just on the infrastructure to run it. Data centers, chips, cooling system, and the most important bit, electricity. Always more electricity. Here is the thing, the world has a green electricity problem. It does not have enough cheap, clean, reliable power to feed this AI revolution. And there is a small landlocked country in the Himalayas that has more untapped clean energy potential than almost any nation on earth. 83,000 megawatts to be exact. Gravity powered, carbon free, sitting in rivers that have been running since before recorded history. That country is none other than Nepal. And I'm going to tell you exactly why this matters and why the next few years might be the most important time in Nepal's modern history. Before I get to the data center story, I need to give you some context because what is happening in Nepal right now is quite layered. And if you don't understand the base of it, the opportunity at the top won't make any sense. So let me take you back to 1971. In 1971, the United Nations created a new category of countries. They looked around the world and identified the nations that weren't just poor. They were structurally trapped, low income, weak healthcare, weak education, and dangerously exposed to any kind of economic or natural shock. They call them least developed countries, LDC. Nepal was on the list from the very first day. Now, being on this list is not just a label, it's a passport. Nepal's garments, carpets, and handicrafts entered the European Union with zero tariffs, no customs duty at all. Nepal gets cheaper loans from international lenders, more generous aids, special exceptions from global trade rules that lets it support its own industry in a way other countries are not allowed to. It's basically a safety net designed for the world's most fragile economy. And for 55 years, Nepal has been inside it. Nepal passed the health and education test back in 2015. But here is the part that not many people talk about. In 2021, when the United Nations formally recommended graduation, Nepal's average income was still below the income threshold. It was graduating from the poorest country list while technically still poor by the income measure. So the question I want you to hold in your head through this entire video is this. Nepal is graduating, but did it graduate because it built a strong economy or because something else moved the numbers? Because the answer to that question determines whether this graduation is actually a triumph or a very well-dressed problem. Let me tell you how Nepal's poverty rate went from 21% in 2011 down to 3% in 2023. The answer is not what you expect. And it explains almost everything in this story. Over 2 million Nepali people live and work abroad in places like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Malaysia, the UAE. They work in jobs like construction, hospitality, domestic care, manufacturing, hard jobs, often far from home, often in intense heat, often with very limited rights. And every month they send money back. Remittances are now 26.9% of Nepal's GDP. That is $11 billion every year, 5 times the global average, more than all foreign aid and foreign investments in Nepal combined. The improvement did not come primarily from jobs created inside Nepal. It came from labor exported to other countries with the wages sent back home. Nepal's best, most productive, most ambitious people, they leave. Their labor enriches Qatar. Their wages improves Nepal's statistics, and those improved statistics are part of what triggered the graduation review. There is a country that actually benefits from Nepal's graduation without doing a single thing. It doesn't need to plan for it. It doesn't need to lobby for it. It doesn't even need to be paying attention. The geography does the work. That country is India. Let's be honest about what India means to Nepal's economy, because this is not a political statement. It is just the data. India is 64% Nepal's total trade. Nepal's fuel comes from India. Its medicines comes from India as well. Its food security, rice, wheat, vegetables, runs through Indian supply chain and Indian border crossings. Nepal's third country trade, anything going to or coming from China, Europe, or anywhere else, transits through Indian territory because Nepal is a landlocked country with no ports of its own. India is not just a trading partner. India is the infrastructure Nepal's economy runs on. Now, if you are an Indian viewer watching this, I want to give you the honest picture from your side, because this is genuinely a two-way story. India's electricity demand is rising at a pace that solar and wind alone cannot meet. Hydro is the missing piece. Reliable at night, manageable during peak demand, and completely renewable. Nepal's rivers run fullest during the Indian monsoon season and remain significant even in dry months. This is not competitive, it is complementary. India needs what Nepal has, and something historic happened in 2023 that most people outside South Asia did not notice. Nepal flipped from being a net electricity importer to a net electricity exporter. For the first time in modern history, more power was flowing south across the Nepal-India border than north. In the year 2024-25, Nepal sold 2,380 gigawatt hours of electricity to India, revenue around $130 million. Then in October 2024, a tripartite agreement was signed between Nepal, India, and Bangladesh. For the first time, Nepali hydropower started flowing to Bangladesh, passing through India's grid as a transit hub. This is not just a trade deal, it's a proof of concept for a South Asian energy network where Nepal sits at the center. India's long-term goal, importing 10,000 megawatts from Nepal over the next decade. Nepal currently exports roughly around 1,000 megawatts. That is the gap right there in Nepal's economic future. But here is the honest catch. Nepal cannot export a single megawatt to India without India's cooperation. It cannot reach Bangladesh without India's grid. The opportunity is real and the dependency is also real. The question is not whether Nepal should work with India. Of course it should. The question is whether Nepal can structure that partnership so that both sides genuinely need each other. That balance is not yet achieved. And that is exactly where the data center angle I mentioned in the start of this video becomes so important. I told you at the start that the world has a green electricity problem. Let me now tell you exactly how Nepal fits into solving it and why the country's new government has made this the centerpiece of its economic vision. A data center is essentially a building full of computers running continuously, generating enormous amount of heat. To run AI, to train models, to run interference, to serve the hundreds of millions of people using ChatGPT, Gemini, cloud, and everything else. You need data centers, lots of them. And they need two things above everything else: cheap, reliable electricity and effective cooling. Now, think about what Nepal actually has. Nepal has 83,000 megawatts of hydropower potential. Of that, 43,000 megawatts is economically feasible to develop. Right now, less than 4,000 megawatts has only been developed. That means Nepal is using roughly 1/10 of what it can actually realistically generate. Hydropower is not intermittent like solar or wind. It runs at night, it runs in winter, it runs when the clouds are out. For a data center that needs to operate 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, the consistency is worth an enormous premium over cheap but unreliable renewable resource. And the cooling. Nepal's Himalayan climate means natural ambient temperature that dramatically reduces the energy need to keep servers from overheating. Cooling typically accounts for 30 to 40% of data centers' running cost. In Nepal's climate, that cost falls significantly, making every megawatt of electricity go further. And here is what makes this more interesting. Nepal has surplus electricity right right now that it cannot fully export because the transmission lines to India are not big enough yet. That surplus electricity is sitting in rivers, generating powers that goes nowhere. The data center built inside Nepal consumes that surplus domestically, at least that's the theory. No transmission lines needed, no India transit required. Nepal gets direct revenue from the world's most valuable industry, artificial intelligence, without needing to negotiate any export deals with anyone. This is not just theoretical. Things are already moving. The Rashtriya Swatantra Party, RSP, which won Nepal's March 2026 election, has placed digital infrastructure at the center of its economic vision. The goal is to transform Nepal into a regional hub for data centers. In August 2025, Nepal's government approved the National AI Policy, a formal national framework for AI development, including plans to build data centers, cloud infrastructure, and AI Excellence Center across all 7 provinces. In January 2025, Nepal opened its tech sector to 100% foreign direct investment for the first time, removing restrictions that had previously blocked serious international players from entering. And in February 2026, the Nepal-India Tech Forum was held in New Delhi, the first event of its kind, focused specifically on tech cooperation between the two countries. Perhaps more concretely, a data center is being built in a place called Chobar, Kathmandu, in collaboration with Google. I want to be balanced here because this channel is about system, not hype. There is a real problem that Nepal's own press is already pointing at. The Kathmandu Post ran a headline in April 2026 that sums up this perfectly. Nepal wants to become a data center hub. It has no rules for how. The Department of Information Technology listed the first certified data center as a container block to avoid planning regulations. The ambition is there, the policy framework is there on paper, but the implementation machinery, the zoning law, the environmental standards, the water use regulations are not ready. But here is the bottom line. Nepal has a rare, genuine comparative advantage in the AI era. Cool climate, massive renewable electricity, a geography that puts it between India, China, and Bangladesh. 3 of the largest population of AI users in Asia. The companies spending $660 billion on AI infrastructure this year are looking for exactly what Nepal has. Nepal does not have to chase them. It has to be ready when they arrive. So let me bring this all together. Because I started this video with Jensen Huang, I want to end it there too. Huang said AI needs trillions of dollars of physical infrastructure, electricity, cooling, space, and the world does not yet have enough of the right kind of energy to run it all. Nepal has rivers, Nepal has cold air, and one of the largest untapped clean energy reserve on earth. The timing is not an accident, it is an opportunity, but the opportunities are only as good as the decisions made in response to them. So here is what Nepal actually needs to do, and I will keep this very practical. First, build the hydropower infrastructure urgently. The 400 kilovolt transmission lines to India that are currently under construction needs to be finished right now. The long-term power purchase agreements with India towards 10,000 megawatt goal needs to be signed, and Nepal needs to start building storage type hydropower plants that generates electricity in the dry season too. Second, build the data center regulatory framework before building more data centers. Build the rule first, then attract the tenants. There are 2 versions of Nepal's next decade. I want to be honest with you about both of them. In the first version, graduation becomes the forcing function that Nepal needed. Hydropower revenue grows towards 10,000 megawatt ambition with India. The Google facility in Chobar becomes the proof of concept that attracts new 10 data centers, for example. The tech policy frameworks gets built properly, and a generation of young Nepalis who might have gone to Qatar find skilled jobs in places like Bhairava, Butwal, Biratnagar, and Kathmandu. The brain drain slows. Nepal stops becoming a country that exports its people and starts being a country that builds with them. In the second version, which is probably the saddest version, I don't want this to happen, Nepal celebrates the UN milestone and misses the structural moment. Government job disappears. Young people keep leaving. more is less work at home. The dependencies on India deepens passively. The data center ambition stalls because the regulatory framework was never built. And Nepal becomes a country that graduated on paper and remained fragile underneath. Which version happens will depend on decisions made in the next 2 to 4 years. Not by the UN, not by India, not by the EU, by Nepal. If you're watching this video from Kathmandu, Pokhara, or in the Gulf region, or in Australia, or in UK, this is Nepal's turning point. The voices that needs to be loudest right now are not the politicians celebrating a UN certificate. They are the engineers, the entrepreneurs, the exporters, and the workers who know exactly what the number means and what has to change. And if you are watching this from India, the South Asian Energy Network we talked about today is genuinely good for India's energy security. That partnership is worth investing in seriously, not as a charity, but as mutual interest. Nepal has survived earthquakes, blockades, civil war, a pandemic. What comes next is harder, not because it is more destructive, but because it's more subtle. It is the moment the world starts expecting, but it needs to move faster than it has ever moved before, and I genuinely hope the new government actually delivers that. Drop in the comments what you think, especially if you're Nepali or Indian. I want to know what the story looks like from where you're standing. And subscribe if you want to follow this one, because this video is just the beginning of a series, not the end of a story. And I will see you in the next one.